Hello guys. Well, it's a cloudy, overcast day here in Sydney, but things must be looking up because the sun is coming out and I've got the keys to this, the Ducati Monster 797. This is the newest Monster in the Ducati lineup, and it's kind of a bit of old and a bit of new because they've taken the engine from the old 796, which is now used a lot in the Scrambler models, and they've put it back in the Monster. So you've got an air-cooled Monster with what I'm told are more relaxed ergonomics and just a general easygoing nature. This is supposed to appeal to new riders and people that are looking for their first step up off a learner bike, if you like. So pretty keen to get on, have a bit of a ride and tell you a bit more about the 797. Let's go. Alright folks, let's have a chat about the Monster 797. Before we do though, I just want to give a shout out to my friends at Sydney City Motorcycles here in Sydney for giving me the opportunity to ride the Monster 797. They're the ones who let me take these bikes out, and without them the videos wouldn't be possible. So if you enjoy the video, please give it a like, thumbs up, because that lets them know that you're watching, that you're enjoying it, and hopefully they'll allow me to take out a few more bikes and keep bringing you these videos. So the 797, this is an interesting one for me because all the marketing material I've seen for this bike is aiming it at new riders. The only catch is here in Australia, you can't ride one of these if you're a new rider because it's above the power to weight restrictions and all that sort of stuff. So this would have to be like a second bike, I would say. You know, you do your couple of years on your restricted license and then you could potentially get one of these as your second bike. So I'm probably well placed to review this bike actually because I've only had my full license for about 9 months, coming on a year. So the bigger capacity bikes are still relatively new to me. And I still remember what it's like to ride a learner bike. So let's see what the Monster's like. What I love about it immediately is you can just get on it and ride it. That's the first thing to note. There's no modes. There's no complicated electronics. There's no multitude of buttons. There's just ABS. And other than that, it's just you and the engine. So it's a no frills, simple bike that's just about getting on and having a bit of fun. This is the entrance to a freeway, and I usually use this to do my acceleration tests on the bike, so let's go. I'm fairly familiar with this engine now because I've ridden the a couple of the Scramblers with this engine, and I rode a Monster 796 a little while back that had this power plant as well. So the engine's not new to me, and I'm pleased to say it feels familiar in a good way here on the 797. So it's an L twin like most Ducatis. It's 75 horsepower from the 803cc air-cooled motor. Before I got going, I took a little sound clip with my high-quality microphone. So I'll splice that in here to give you a feel for what the Monster 797 sounds like. So there you have it. It's a familiar power plant to the Ducati Monster lineup and Scrambler, but it's a good one. It's a really good urban amount of power, I guess I would call it. Like in these situations where you're getting around town, it's a punchy, torquey motor. And because it's been around for a while and it's in a multitude of different bikes, you can be pretty confident that it's going to be a reliable motor as well. Alright, let's talk about ergonomics on the Monster. Some of the Monsters of old were almost cafe racer sporty in their ergonomics and their seating position, but that's not the case with the 797. And I think that is a deliberate move to, again, make this a little easier to ride and a little easier to get along with if this is your first or second bike. So the handlebars are raised and brought towards the rider a little bit more, which makes for a more relaxed body position. My back is pretty much completely upright on this bike, and there's no reach to the bars at all. It's a really neutral position. The seat is quite low, which again helps with the new riders because it gives you that feeling of security with both feet on the ground. But that also means I feel like I'm sitting in the bike. I'm not sitting on top of the bike. But it's a really nice neutral position, as I said. Alright, here's the part of the video I call the Carpark Test. The whole point of this is just a quick little slow speed maneuvering session just to see how the bike behaves at low speed. Can you turn it around easily? Does it still feel balanced? So what I usually do here is just grab first gear and then rear brake, slip the clutch a little bit and just do a U-turn. Now I'm grabbing plenty of rear brake there, taking it nice and easy, and the bike feels stable, easy to maneuver, confidence inspiring. And if I have to come to a quick stop, you can see my feet are fully on the ground. Now I'm a tall guy, but I can do it easily, so I would say anyone approaching 6 foot even would be fine to get their feet down on this bike. So what about the rest of the machine? What do they give you here? Well, I've got a couple of nice corners coming up here, so I'll tell you what it feels like through a couple of bends, eh? New tyres, a little bit of water on the road, so gently, gently. But still, it feels nice. Like I said, this is a no-nonsense bike to me. This is just made for getting on, having fun. No rider modes to worry about. You don't even have to adjust the suspension. Oh, he's going left. Just get on and go. And so far, it's ticking that box really well. One thing I like about Ducatis, doesn't matter what price point you're coming in at, they always put good brakes on their bikes. And this bike's no exception. You've got Brembos front and rear, and you've got a twin disc setup up front, which gives plenty of bite. This is a new bike where the brakes haven't even bedded in that well yet, and it already feels like a good stopping bike. Plenty of bite there in the front brakes. And you get Rosso 2 Pirelli tyres on it as well, which are not a hyper soft compound, but they're going to be a really good dual purpose kind of compound for a bit of sport riding and a bit of commuting if that's what you need to do as well. One other point where there's been a big step up from the old Monster 659 and 796 models is the dash here. And I'll splice in a clip here so you can see in a bit more detail what's on the dash. But what we've got here is more approaching what's on the Monster 821. So the old dash was one of the worst aspects of the Monster, I thought. It was so small, it was basically impossible to read anything on the dash. Whereas this one, big, easy to read tacho across the top, big speedo in the middle, and a couple of other things that you can cycle through down below. No gear position indicator, but other than that, it's got all the info that I would want. So that's a big step up from previous Monsters. If I think back to a few weeks ago when I was riding the Kawasaki Z650, I'll put a link to that video here so you can check it out if you're interested. when I was riding the Kawasaki Z650, I remember saying that I felt immediately comfortable and confident on this bike. And I would say the same of the Monster. I think this bike is doing a bang up job of just letting me relax and just enjoy the ride. And so I guess in that aspect, they've really nailed the brief with this bike, because like I said, they're pitching this at new riders or newer riders. And I think anyone could get on this bike and just have some fun. The power's not intimidating, but it also puts a big grin on your face when you open the throttle, so it's not like you're going to be wishing you had more. But yeah, it's not going to frighten new riders. Like I said, the position of the bars makes you feel in command of the bike rather than being pushed around by it. Just all in all, it's a super easy package to get on and live with. And I love the fact that Ducati offers this bike now, because they're kind of saying you don't have to buy a scrambler. I was worried for a while there that it was either buy a big bore Monster, or if you were a newish rider, you kind of only had the scrambler to choose from. But for me, by introducing the 797, they've given people an entry point into the Monster range, which is good, because not everyone likes the look of scramblers, and I know a lot of people like the look of Monsters, so it just makes a lot of sense from my point of view to make this bike. So I guess the next question to ask yourself is, well, what's the competition? Like, what else might you be interested in? Well, to be honest, I think there's a lot of bikes you might be interested in, because this is a pretty popular segment, and a lot of the manufacturers offer stuff up in this segment. So if I think about bikes that have got, 75-ish horsepower, naked bikes, comfortable riding position, about 180 kilos, you've got MT-07 or FC-07, Suzuki SV650, you got the Kawasaki Z650 now. I've done test rides on all of those bikes, so you can flick back and have a look at those if you're interested. But yeah, you're not short of choices in this segment. And I guess has always been the case with Ducati, this bike is going to compete very well with all of those bikes, but you're going to pay more for it for the name. So I guess that's up to you. Like, if you really love the styling of the Monster, that extra price might be totally justifiable in your mind. But what I would say is, if you're sitting on the fence and you're not sure, try some of those other bikes I just mentioned, because they all do the job in a similar way. I think they're a real sweet spot in the market. They're not so powerful and intimidating that you've got to concentrate when you ride. They're very relaxing kind of bikes to get on and ride. They don't have heaps of gadgets that you have to keep on top of. You just, turn the key and away you go. And they're all affordable bikes to buy and own as well. That's the other cool thing. They're not going to break the bank. So there you have it, folks. The Ducati Monster 797. If I had to sum it up in a sentence, I would say fun, no-nonsense roadster that's easy to ride and is going to be easy to live with. That's how I would describe this bike. Just a couple of quick things before we go. I do these test rides on a reasonably regular basis, so if you enjoyed the video, feel free to hit that subscribe button down below to keep an eye out for the latest test rides that I publish. And if you're doing a bit of shopping for a bike at the moment, check out my playlists that I'll link at the end of this video as well. I may have a previous video on one of the bikes you're interested in. And once again, a big thank you to the crew at Sydney City Motorcycles for hooking me up with the Monster 797. That's all for this video, folks. Speak to you again soon. Cheers.